Ladies and gentlemen, strap in for a journey into the unknown. Tonight's tale, The Vanishing Flight, a pilot's terrifying UFO encounter in the midnight skies, is inspired by real aviation enigmas, like the Bermuda Triangle disappearances, the mysterious loss of Flight 19 in 1945, and declassified pilot reports of unidentified aerial phenomena that have puzzled experts for decades. Imagine soaring at 35,000 feet, the world below a vast, endless blanket of clouds, when suddenly lights appear, not distant stars, not the familiar blink of another aircraft, but something that defies all laws of physics and logic. Something that doesn't just appear, it invades, whispering through your instruments, pulling you into a void where time itself unravels, and the line between reality and nightmare blurs beyond recognition. Our story unfolds on a crisp autumn night in 2019, over the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. Captain Elias Grant, a seasoned pilot with over 20 years of experience at Horizon Airlines, was at the helm of Flight 427, a routine red-eye from New York to London. The Boeing 777 carried 180 passengers aboard, a mix of weary business travelers huddled over laptops, families with children dozing in their seats, and a few anxious first-time flyers gripping their armrests. Elias expected nothing more than smooth skies, a quick refuel in London, and a hot cup of coffee to keep him alert through the long hours. His co-pilot, Sarah Klein, a sharp-witted veteran with a no-nonsense attitude, joked about the in-flight movie selection as they taxied down the runway and climbed steadily to cruising altitude. Elias had a lot on his mind that night, more than the usual pre-flight checklists and weather briefings. His wife, Lena, was back home in their cozy apartment in Queens, 7 months pregnant with their first child, a baby girl they had already named Sophia. He'd promised her this would be his last long-haul flight before taking paternity leave, a chance to finally slow down after years of chasing horizons. Just one more crossing, he'd said that morning, kissing her goodbye and feeling the gentle kick of their daughter against his hand. I'll be back before you know it. Little did he know, this one flight would stretch into an eternity, testing every ounce of his resolve and threatening to tear apart the life he cherished. As the plane leveled off at 35,000 feet, the cabin lights dimmed to a soft glow, encouraging passengers to rest. Elias scanned the array of instruments before him, altitude steady, fuel levels optimal, no signs of turbulence on the horizon. The autopilot hummed reliably, and the only sounds were the steady roar of the twin engines and the occasional murmur from the cabin crew serving drinks. Sarah leaned back in her seat, reviewing the latest weather report from ground control. Clear skies ahead, with a light tailwind that would shave a few minutes off their ETA. Looks like an easy one tonight, she said with a grin. Maybe we'll even catch a glimpse of the northern lights over Greenland. Elias nodded, allowing himself a small smile. He loved these quiet moments, high above the world, where the stresses of everyday life felt distant and insignificant. But deep down, a nagging unease lingered. Perhaps it was the fatigue from back-to-back flights, or maybe just paternal nerves about the baby. He pushed it aside, focusing on the stars twinkling through the cockpit windshield. Everything was normal, routine, predictable, until it wasn't. At precisely 2:17 a.m., the radar screen pinged softly, a single anomalous blip appearing out of nowhere, unlabeled and unannounced, at their exact altitude. It was closing fast, faster than any commercial jet could manage. Elias's eyes narrowed. What the hell is that? he muttered, leaning forward. Sarah, check the transponder logs. That can't be right. She tapped the console, her brow furrowing. No IFS signal. It's not broadcasting. ATC, this is Horizon 427. We have an unidentified bogey on radar, bearing 030 degrees, closing at high speed. Do you have eyes on this? Confirm traffic? Static crackled through the headsets in response. No immediate answer. Elias tried again. ATC, Horizon 427, requesting immediate confirmation. Possible collision risk. Still nothing but white noise. The radio had gone eerily dead, as if the signal had been swallowed by the night. Sarah glanced at him, her usual calm cracking just a fraction. Instruments glitching, altitudes holding, but the comms, it's like we're isolated. Elias felt a chill run down his spine, the kind pilots trained to ignore but never fully shake. He peered out the side window, scanning the dark expanse. The moonlit clouds below rolled like a silver sea, peaceful and undisturbed. Keep trying, he said. I'll adjust course slightly. Maybe it's a drone or military. That's when they saw it. Through the forward windshield, 3 pulsating orbs materialized from the depths of the clouds, brilliant white cores surrounded by halos of electric blue. They weren't aircraft. There were no wings, no exhaust trails, no navigation lights. They moved in perfect, unnatural unison, darting like fireflies across a summer field, but each the size of a small jet. One orb veered perilously close to the starboard wing, illuminating the entire cockpit in an unnatural, pulsating glow that made the instruments flicker erratically. In the cabin, passengers began to stir from their slumber. A young boy in row 15 pressed his face to the window, his eyes wide with wonder. "Mom, look at the lights! Are they shooting stars?" His mother, half asleep, glanced out and froze, her hand tightening on his arm. Whispers spread like wildfire through the aisles, excitement turning to unease as more people noticed the anomaly. A businessman in first class unbuckled his seatbelt, craning his neck for a better view. What in God's name? Elias's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline surging through his veins. Years of training kicked in. Sarah, evasive maneuvers, bank left, 10 degrees, increase thrust. But as he pulled back on the yoke, the controls resisted, frozen as if encased in ice. The plane didn't budge, holding its course with mechanical defiance. Alarms began to blare, autopilot disengaged, hydraulic warnings flashing red. Sarah's hands flew over the panels. Controls are locked. It's not responding. Manual override failing. The orbs encircled the aircraft now, forming a triangular formation that boxed them in. Their light intensified, bathing the fuselage in a cold, otherworldly radiance that penetrated the windows and cast long, dancing shadows inside the cabin. And then, a voice. Not over the radio, but inside their heads. A low, resonant hum that vibrated through their skulls, forming words that echoed with an alien clarity. Do not resist. Witness. The convergence. Your path intersects ours. Sarah clutched her headset, her face pale. Elias, did you hear that? It's in my mind. Like a whisper from everywhere. He nodded, his knuckles white on the yoke, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool cabin air. The orbs pulsed in sync, and the plane shuddered violently, as if caught in an invisible electromagnetic web. Elias's thoughts raced, memories of simulator drills for bird strikes or engine failures, but nothing prepared him for this. Stay calm, he said. More to himself than Sarah. We get through this. For Lena. For Sophia. The cockpit plunged into utter chaos. Instruments spun wildly out of control. The altimeter plummeted from 35,000 feet to 10,000 in seconds, then spiked back up impossibly. The compass whirled like a dervish, pointing in every direction at once. The artificial horizon tilted erratically, making it feel as though the plane was rolling in a barrel. Cabin lights flickered on and off, plunging sections into darkness before snapping back with a harsh buzz. Passengers screamed as the turbulence hit. Not the usual bumps, but a deep, bone-rattling vibration that shook seats and overhead bins. Oxygen masks deployed prematurely, dangling like yellow pendulums, adding to the panic. In economy, a flight attendant named Maria struggled to her feet, her voice crackling over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated and fasten your seatbelts. We're experiencing some unexpected turbulence. The captain has everything under control." But her words were drowned out by cries and prayers. An elderly woman clutched her rosary, whispering fervently. A young couple held each other, tears streaming down their faces. Elias fought the yoke with all his strength, muscles straining, but it was like pushing against an unyielding wall. "Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Horizon 427, experiencing severe unknown interference. Controls unresponsive. Possible electromagnetic anomaly. Last known position, 40 degrees north, 50 degrees west. We need immediate assistance." His voice echoed in the cockpit, but the radio remained silent. The static, now a mocking hiss. One of the orbs detached from the formation and attached itself to the port wing, its glow seeping into the metal like liquid light. Sparks danced across the fuselage, arcing like miniature lightning bolts. The engines whined unnaturally, RPMs fluctuating wildly. Sarah's console sparked, a small fire igniting before she smothered it with an extinguisher. "Elias, the systems are frying. If this continues, we'll lose engines." From the cabin, the lead flight attendant radioed up, her voice trembling. "Captain, we've got full-blown hysteria back here. People are saying they hear voices, whispers telling them to join or witness. One passenger is having a seizure." Elias's mind reeled. This wasn't mechanical failure. It was deliberate. The orbs were toying with them, probing, controlling. In a desperate bid, Elias slammed the emergency override switches, but the plane banked sharply on its own accord, veering off its transatlantic course toward a glowing anomaly materializing in the sky ahead, a swirling vortex of iridescent light, like a tear in the fabric of reality itself, pulsing with colors that shouldn't exist. The air inside grew thick, heavy with an ozone scent, and the temperature dropped sharply, frost forming on the windows. The voice swelled in their minds again, more insistent. "Enter. See the truth beyond. Time bends for the worthy." Sarah's eyes widened in terror. "Elias, look at the stars. They're moving backward. This isn't possible." Indeed, outside the windshield, constellations shifted unnaturally, reversing their paths as if the entire universe was rewinding. Elias felt a wave of nausea, his vision blurring. Was this how those lost flights ended? Swallowed by the unknown, erased from history. As the aircraft hurtled toward the vortex, reality itself began to warp and twist like a funhouse mirror. Elias felt a profound pulling sensation deep in his gut, as if gravity had inverted, tugging at his very soul. Memories that weren't his own flooded his mind in vivid, disorienting flashes. Ancient aviators in rickety biplanes, spotting fiery spheres over war-torn skies. World War II fighter pilots pursued by elusive Foo Fighters that danced mockingly around their wings. Modern commercial jets vanishing without a trace over vast oceans. Their black boxes recovered with recordings of panicked voices pleading for help that never came. The orbs communicated more directly now, their collective hum forming coherent, insistent thoughts that bypassed ears and burrowed straight into consciousness. We are the navigators, eternal guardians of the celestial paths. Your crude vessels intrude upon our ancient routes, disrupting the balance. Join us, or be lost forever in the ether. The words carried an weight of eons, laced with a cold indifference that chilled Elias to his core. Sarah, her hands shaking, activated the cockpit voice recorder with a flick of a switch. This is co-pilot Sarah Klein, Flight 427. We're encountering unidentified luminous objects. They're intelligent, controlling the aircraft's systems, voices in our heads. If anyone finds this, tell them it wasn't an accident. Her voice cracked, but she held it together, a testament to her training. In the cabin, the phenomena escalated. Passengers reported hallucinations. A middle-aged man in business class swore he saw his deceased father waving from the clouds, mouthing words he couldn't hear. A young woman in coach heard whispers of future events, stock market crashes, personal tragedies, playing like a prophecy in her mind. The plane's digital clocks spun erratically, minutes stretching into what felt like hours, then snapping back in reverse. One child screamed that time was breaking, pointing at his watch hands spinning counterclockwise. Elias's own thoughts fragmented under the assault. He saw flashes of Lena at home, alone in their bed, clutching her belly as if sensing his peril. "Hold on, baby," he whispered aloud, his voice barely audible over the alarms. "I'm coming back." Gritting his teeth, he refused to surrender. "Sarah, we fight this. Divert power to auxiliaries. Try to overload the systems." With sheer willpower, he slammed the throttle forward, forcing a surge of power through the engines. The attached orb on the wing sparked violently, detaching with a burst of energy that rocked the plane like an explosion. The aircraft lurched free from the invisible grip. But the vortex ahead pulled harder, its maw widening like a hungry beast. Elias banked hard, muscles burning, as the orbs regrouped, their lights flaring in what seemed like frustration. Time itself fractured in that moment. Elias blinked, and suddenly, the cockpit was empty. Sarah vanished, the co-pilot's seat cold and unoccupied. The alarms fell silent, replaced by an oppressive void. He was utterly alone, the plane adrift in a starless expanse where no horizon existed. How long had it been? Hours? Days? Weeks? He couldn't tell. His watch had stopped, frozen at 2:17 a.m. The air grew stale, thick with an unnatural silence, broken only by his ragged breathing. Whispers echoed through the emptiness, now a chorus of voices from across ages. Choose, return to your fragile world, or ascend to the infinite. Visions assaulted him relentlessly. Earth viewed from impossible heights, cities crumbling under skies filled with invading lights. Humanity's history rewritten by unseen forces, wars averted or ignited by these navigators. Lost flights not crashed, but pulled into parallel realms, their crews eternal wanderers. Desperation clawed at Elias. He stumbled to the cabin door, peering out to find rows of empty seats, luggage strewn as if in haste. "Where is everyone?" he shouted into the void. The whispers laughed, a sound like wind through cracked glass. "They are here, and not. Time is fluid. You are the anchor." Memories of his training flooded back, emergency protocols, survival drills, but nothing covered this. He returned to the cockpit, broadcasting on every frequency. "If anyone can hear this, Flight 427 is under attack by unknown entities. Coordinates lost, systems compromised. Tell my wife, Lena. Tell her I love her and I'm sorry." His voice broke, tears blurring his vision. Then, without warning, a blinding burst of light erupted from the vortex, engulfing the plane. Reality snapped back with a jolt, the cockpit filling with sound and motion once more. Sarah reappeared in her seat, gasping for air as if surfacing from deep water. "Elias, what happened? I was elsewhere, in a place without time." Passengers' cries resumed, the cabin a cacophony of confusion. The orbs retreated into the clouds, their glow fading like dying embers. But the plane's clock showed only 5 minutes had elapsed since the first contact. Though Elias felt as though years had passed, his hands trembled with exhaustion, his reflection in the console showing new lines etched into his face. As they approached London Heathrow, the ordeal seemed to end. Air traffic control finally responded, their voices puzzled. "Horizon 427, you went radio silent for 2 minutes. Systems check out on our end. Everything okay up there?" Elias hesitated, his mind racing. Should he tell the truth? "Affirmative," he replied, his voice steady by force of will. "Minor electrical glitch. All systems nominal now." But he knew better. This was no glitch. It was an encounter that defied explanation. On final descent, the instruments picked up faint, lingering signals, pulses of binary code emanating from the direction the orbs had vanished. Elias jotted them down discreetly, his hands still shaking. Later, decoded by a friend in aviation tech, they formed a chilling message. "Warning, the veil thins. More intrusions imminent. Prepare for convergence." The plane touched down smoothly, taxiing to the gate under the harsh glare of airport lights. Passengers disembarked in a daze, many rubbing their temples, complaining of headaches or disorientation. Some claimed missing time, insisting hours had passed when logs showed minutes. The young boy who first spotted the lights tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mom, the whispers said we'd see them again." She shushed him, but her eyes held fear. Airport security met the crew at the gate, routine but probing. "Any incidents en route?" Elias shook his head, forcing a smile, smooth as silk. But inside, turmoil brewed. He collected his bag and headed for the crew lounge, where he confided in Sarah over a stiff drink. "Those things, they weren't random. They chose us, and that vortex, it was like stepping outside time." She nodded, her face ashen. "I saw things too. Visions of other flights, lost forever. We have to report this." Elias agreed, but doubt crept in. Who would believe them without proof? The black box would show anomalies, but airlines hated scandals. Back home in New York, after a connecting flight, Elias collapsed into Lena's arms. She sensed something was wrong immediately. "What happened up there? You look like you've seen a ghost." He broke down, recounting every detail. The lights, the voices, the time slip. "It felt like I lost you both, like I was gone forever. Lena held him tight, her hand on her belly. File a report. Go public. People need to know. He did, submitting a detailed incident report to the FAA and his airline. But the response was swift and chilling. Horizon executives called him in for a debrief, where suited men from an unnamed agency waited. Captain Grant, one said, his eyes cold, for reasons of national security, this event never occurred. Your instruments malfunctioned due to solar flares. Sign here, and it's over. They presented non-disclosure agreements, hinting at career ruin if he refused. Elias signed, but the fire in him didn't die. He dug deeper in secret, uncovering a web of similar cases. Flight 19 Squadron vanishing in 1945, amid reports of strange lights. TWA Flight 800's mysterious explosion linked to unexplained radar blips. Countless pilot testimonies silenced under gag orders. The binary signals? They pointed to oceanic hotspots, anomalous zones where planes and ships vanish without trace. Perhaps portals guarded by these navigators. Years passed, but the scars remained. Elias retired early, haunted by nightmares of the void. He and Lena welcomed Sophia, but he never flew again, always scanning the skies with dread. Then, in 2022, as global UFO sightings surged, the lights reappeared, hovering over their suburban home one stormy night. The familiar hum returned, whispering directly to him, "You were chosen. The convergence approaches. Prepare humanity." And so the tale of the vanishing flight endures, a warning etched in the stars. Was it extraterrestrial visitors? Interdimensional guardians correcting cosmic imbalances? Or a glimpse into forbidden realms where time and space fold like paper? Pilot reports of similar encounters continue to spike worldwide. Perhaps the navigators are calling more of us. Next time you board a plane, look out the window. Listen for the whispers and ask yourself, what if your flight is next? Thank you for joining me on this harrowing journey through the midnight skies. If this story gripped you from takeoff to landing, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Have you ever witnessed something unexplained in the air? Safe travels, and always watch the skies.